Oh, I made a mistake. Where did that I go on the word hoist? Pavia hoist the SEC flag, not host the SEC flag. What is wrong with me? The moron, the fat guy from Minnesota, is squarely sitting in this chair today. We are live. We are live. Welcome to college football's peek around the corner with your hoist. With your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel, this incompetent channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. If you want to support this incompetent college football YouTube channel with a donation to help us keep the lights on, just hit that $sign where we make a comment, and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. I know. I don't know where that I went. I do not know what is going on. It's called incompetence, Florida man. That's what it is. It's called incompetence. But I'm not going to worry about it for now. I mean, we all know that even though I might make a mistake now and then, I'm not going to be making many mistakes when it comes to my predictions for 2025 against the spread. I'm going to have a winning percentage. The fat guy from Minnesota is going to have a winning percentage of 60% or higher, because 2025 is the year of Greg the Gold. Heist the flag, hoist the flag, putting the flag in the middle of the 50-yard line. I screwed up, but it's still going to be the year of Greg the Gold. I've got it all figured out. I've broken down the tapes. I've been watching when you guys are sleeping. While you all are sleeping, you geniuses, I am watching the tape of last year, high school tape. I'm breaking it all down so you can sleep at night. Okay, we've got a stack show today. I want to get to the roll call as quick as I possibly can. We've got an absolute stack show. Unbelievable. This is the first day, June 17th. We're going to be doing a spotlight. Spotlight team today is the Duke Blue Devils. They won 9 football games last year. First-year head coach Manny Diaz. You know, they led the ACC last year in sacks. They were tied in sacks. Do you know that Duke led the ACC? They were not tied for tackle for losses. The first year under Manny Diaz. You know, they got a shutdown corner. You know, they got a safety who always know where the ball is. Do you know that they got 4 returning starters on the O-line? Did you know that the Duke Blue Devils got themselves a 3-4, I don't know how many million dollar quarterback in the portal, Darren Mensah? Do you remember that that running back Duke had in 2022, in 2023, that running back who had all that juice, but he was nicked up last year. We barely saw him last year, and now he's coming back. Do you remember the name? I remember the name. Do you remember the name? You remember 2 years ago he was sharing the rock with Waters, and then Waters went off last year to transfer to North Carolina State, and Greg the Cooler blew up that team? Not this year. I ain't blowing up anything this year. That running back, we're going to talk about him. He's back. Hopefully he's healthy. I think he is. Do you remember a couple of years ago, the little receiver, number 2, he had a brilliant game against the Miami Hurricanes. Well, there's a lot expected on him. No question about it. We're going to go through it all here. Duke is the spotlight team today. Tomorrow, it's going to be Michigan State. The day after that is going to be the South Carolina Gamecocks. We're going to go through it. Every day, there's going to be a spotlight team that we are going to break down for 2025. But that's not all. That's not even close to all. we're going to be talking about Deigo Pavia. He's a tough kid, man. He's a tough quarterback. Now, I watched a lot of Deigo Pavia back in the New Mexico State days because Jerry Kill picked him up. Jerry Kill was the head coach of New Mexico State a couple of years ago. Deigo Pavia was absolutely brilliant for New Mexico State. Brought them to a bowl game. Had a win against Auburn. Did a lot of brilliant stuff. Then he transferred to Vanderbilt last year. Vanderbilt had a pretty good team, 6-6. They beat Alabama in Nashville for the first time since, I think, 1978. Deigo Pavia hoist, even though I can't spell it correctly, hoist the SEC flag. Took some shots at the Big Ten. Holy smokes. We are going to go through that. The elbows are starting to fly as we get closer and closer to the college football season. And then we're going to go through the CBS Sports report. The battle is brewing between the Big Ten and the SEC. There are meetings today. There are meetings tomorrow. Presentations about the college football playoff format going forward. We did a live show on it yesterday. We called it DEFCON 2. There is a true war going on here. And I got to tell you, if the Big Ten backs down, and they won't, but if they do, no way will they. But if they do, there's going to be a change in leadership in the Big Ten. Because people are already pissed off. The Big Ten has got to hold their ground. Walk away, walk away, walk away. This is a circus today and tomorrow. The Big Ten's got to recognize it. Oh, you can be polite, Tony, silent Tony, not going to say anything in public, going to be polite in private, but he got to shut it down. Ain't no way there's going to be a 5+11 with the SEC staying at 8 conference games. Ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. So figure it out. If we have to go into 2026 with no college football playoff expansion, 12 teams like we're going to have it for 2025, let's do it. You want to do it for 27? Let's do it. You want to go for 28? Let's do it. You want to go for 29? Let's do it. You want to go to 2030? Let's do it. You want to go to 2031? Let's do it. Let's do it. Push it all the way out. Do not bend the knee, Big Ten. I've been on X today. I've put out a couple of comments. I read the comments coming back to me. Comments coming back to me. And my goodness gracious. At least the people who communicate to me on X. Boy, there is the great majority of you all that want to completely lay down for the Southeastern. You think this is good? You think this is what everybody should want? The SEC to tweak the strength of schedule even more in their favor while staying at 8 conference games, going 5+11. So many of you are laying down for this. I remain shocked at this. Math is math. Go, please. I should do another show on this. Go read Bill Conley's systematic, mathematic simulations his breakdown on the differences between the playoff models. Go look at the difference between the SEC at 9 conference games and 8 conference. Don't listen to me. I'm a moron. Don't listen to me. Read Bill Connelly's article. My goodness. The Big 12, the ACC is walking into a buzzsaw. A buzzsaw. And the SEC wants to pour more gasoline in their buzzsaw by tweaking the strength of schedule even more in their favor. It's diabolical what the SEC is doing. If today, if we get any reports, keep your head on a swivel. Keep your head on a swivel. Let me know if there's any reports that come out as we do in this live show. But if we're sitting here, and if the Big 12 is truly in the corner of Sankey, and if the ACC is truly in the corner of Sankey on a 5+11, and they do not care that the SEC remains at 8, and of course, the ACC ain't going to care because they are at 8. This is really a Big 12 situation here. What was the Big 12? What was Brett Yormark promised? I hope, boy, do I hope and I pray. I hope and I pray that somebody somewhere is tapping Sankey on the shoulder and saying, all of it favors the Southeastern Conference. Big Ten's got to walk away. Big Ten, I think the Big Ten is willing to compromise on just about anything, as long as the SEC goes to 9 conference games. If the SEC stays at 8, Big Ten ain't compromising. It's automatic qualifiers, or we remain as we are today, going forward. Okay, so we've got an unbelievable stack show. I want to get to everybody's. I am so happy that everybody has joined us today, early, June 17th. Ryan Willie, for all the Big Ten haters, the Big Ten is the football conference. Not only has the Big Ten won the last 2 natties, but they're the best academic conference. The Big 12 and the SEC, ACC couldn't hold the Big Ten water. This evil badger has spoken. Holy smokes. Oh my God. Ryan Willie has thrown a couple of hand grenades in here early on in the chat room. It should be a pleasant day in the chat room. Everybody should get along. Kumbaya, kumbaya. Ryan Willie. Wow. I still believe that the Southeastern Conference is the best conference in the country. I still believe that the Southeastern Conference is the most valuable conference in the country. Their content is the most valuable. If you put on a medium SEC game and a medium Big Ten game, the SEC is going to be a little bit more valuable. But it's not as there is not much of a gap. Even though people constantly talk about the Big Ten viewership numbers versus the SEC, those viewership numbers only portray a couple of chapters in a 10-chapter book. The Big Ten is worth a lot of money. Their viewership, the demographics, the markets that the Big Ten is in is where the national advertisers want to advertise. So, but I still give the edge to the SEC. But what I will argue is that the Big Ten is not does not match the perception of the majority of the PATC family. We are a national college football show, so we got SEC, we got ACC, we got Big 12, we got Big 10, we got G6 fans, and I love it. I love my demographics for this show. But the Big 10 is better than what is perceived by the family, which is fine. But it is not quite where the SEC is at. So I disagree with Ryan Willie a little bit here. But that's okay. Ryan Willie, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it so very much. Thank you. I really, really appreciate it. Helping us keep the lights on. A great start to the show today. Let me let's do a quick roll call here. David Kreitzer is in the house. Jonathan Price is here. Ryan Thomas is here. Richard L. Mutual Assured Destruction. Richard L. Colorado Buffalo. The Big Gun Shop. Skaven, yes. Boy, Skaven, yes. Deigo Pavia took a shot at the Big Ten today, but he took a direct shot at Nebraska. How dare Deigo Pavia take a direct shot at the Cornhuskers? Holy smokes. 21 Bucket 21 is in the house. Dave B is here. Rock Chalk, Jayhawk, Vox Quindaro, Florida Man, Bo Weevil. Heist the flag, hoist the flag. Whatever. I don't know what I had it hoist. I was changing that thing around so many times, and I didn't even notice it until we started the live show. It's too late for me to change. I would try to change it later. A misspelling in the... it don't matter. Preston from Greensboro is in the house. Duke may have a better team, but a more difficult schedule than last year. Yes, I think so, but not by a whole lot. I looked at that schedule. It's still very doable for the Duke Blue Devils. But then again, Preston from Greensboro, he's got to rain on the Blue Devils parade, right? That's what Preston does. He rains on the Blue Devils parade. Today, Nick Boardman is in the house. Ryan Willie, thanks again, Ryan Willie. Appreciate it. Deadeye, yo, Greg, yo, Deadeye. You're my favorite YouTube hoist. Thank you, Jonathan Price. I'm a moron. Morris Simmons is in the house. Mr. Seminole. Some cheese have slipped off Greg's cracker. Charlie Atwood. Friends call me Sean. The Big Ten now seeing what a lot of Florida State fans are sick of the SEC and ESPN and prefer the Big Ten if ever given the choice. Unlike Tony P., Florida State speaks up. Jeff Olson, the evil badger. Sean, it's Greg the Cold. Ain't no Greg the Cold anymore. Ain't no Greg the Cold. Bo Weevil's in the house. Nick Boardman, Mr. Hokey, Dante's Inferno, Purgatory, Expansion Crush. The two behemoths, SEC and the Big Ten, will eventually come to their senses. There's too much to lose to either go it alone. There he is, the Oklahoma State Cowboy, MBM, Terror on the High Seas, ECU Pirates. Laura Weiss, the Red Raider. Humbo, Bumbo, Duck, Quite Sunny, Duckville. Ryan Thomas Shakar is in the house. I'm not gonna... Shakar, when I saw that Pavia article, I knew Greg would retort. I'm not angry at the dude. I think he's misrepresenting the Big Ten reality. But he's a tough kid, man. He's going to say what he believes. He said it. He believes that Vanderbilt is a college football playoff contender this year. And again, you want your quarterback talking like that. He did contradict himself once during the article. That was kind of, I don't know. I'll bring that up. But again, a lot of people wanted me to talk about it. Deigo Pavia throws down the SEC flag. He made a statement. Jay Chapman is in the house. I had to delete the show. But we did have a winner. And I believe the gentleman's is in the chat. I thought I saw his name. I guess not. Maybe not. I had to delete it for reasons that I don't really want to get into. We did a live show. It was a trivia show. Rodney Richborn, I believe the name was, is the winner. He is now the new champion of the trivia game. We covered some things in regards to the shooting and stuff, and there was some information shared on the live show. I was asked to delete it, and I happily deleted it. So that's why I did it. Okay, who else is here? Jeff Keyes is in the house. Leslie Hill is here. Jonathan Price, Ed Cook. The Big 12 would like to tweak the SOS, in my opinion. We weren't too happy that Boise State ended up above Arizona State. Whoo! I get what you're saying, Ed Cook, but be careful what you wish for. JIT is in the house. Chris Kinney is here. Yes, Louisiana Monroe cuts tennis. JC Films believes that the Big Ten needs to make football moves. If you're going to make a football move, though, if the Big Ten makes a quote-unquote football move, you're going to have to satisfy all the boxes. They got to be checked. The Big Ten presidents, you got to check their box. So if you're going to make a football move, it's got to be the right blend. It does. It does. It does. It's got to be the right blend. So if you want your Clemson to get into the Big Ten, you're going to want your Clemson to hook up with the North Carolina, with the Notre Dame, with the Miami, with the Georgia Tech, with the Duke. If you want Florida State to get in the Big Ten, they got to hook up. It's going to be difficult for them to hook up with Notre Dame. It's going to be difficult for them to hook up with North Carolina. It's a possibility. It's a lot easier for Florida State to hook up with Miami. Everybody's going to have to get satisfied if the Big Ten expands again. The Big Ten's going to want to improve their demographics. They're going to want to get into markets that their national advertisers want. Fox and whoever's going to be partners throughout the years of the Big Ten, they're going to want the correct markets, and that schools have to be considered Big Ten universities. Okay. Jose is in the house. Christopher Hooter, go Tigers. Mr. SEC. Al Bundy is here. Bob Swinganger. John Dry. Don Scruggs, Georgia Bulldogs. Heartbreak. Mr. Gold. I'd wish you'd misspell Penn State as Ohio State like you did Hoist when making your picks. Heartbreak 25. I'm gonna tell you Nittany Lions something. I'm gonna tell you Nittany Lions something. I'm picking Penn State to win the Big Ten championship. That's it. I am picking Penn. I'm not changing from that. So you've got to believe in Greg the Gold this year. You've got to embrace it. It is you guys that are trying to put the coolness on me. It ain't going to work. Penn State is going to win the Big Ten championship. And I'm going to go ahead and give a little bit of Gopher propaganda here. If it ain't going to be Penn State, I got a feeling that the Golden Gophers will be playing Penn State one time this year. But if it ain't going to be Penn State, I got a feeling that the Golden Gophers are going to be playing the Buckeyes twice this year. How about them apples? Heartbreak 25. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate your generosity. Thank you so very much. Bob Swanger is saying yep to my positivity. Bob Swanger is not saying yes to what Ryan Thomas just said in the chat room. That is not happening. Bob Swanger is saying yes to my positivity. Preston from Greensboro, I just love this show. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for your super chat, for helping us keep the lights on. I appreciate it. Stephen Vitt. Minnesota in the Big Ten title game. I'll have what Greg's having. What that tells me, what Stephen Vitt just told me, is I'm going to have to crank up the Golden Gopher propaganda a little bit more, because you guys are really become non-believers. And that scares me a little bit. It scares me a little bit. The Gophers, they don't, they play the Buckeyes, and they play an Oregon team that just lost Evan Stewart, but they don't play Penn State. They don't play Michigan. They don't play Indiana. They don't play Illinois. They're going to be favored in most of their games. And PJ Fleck, almost always, the Gophers do better than what the consensus says that the Gophers are going to do at the beginning of the season. I'm just saying. I ain't saying, but I'm saying. If Drake Lindsay is truly the next Josh Allen, oh my God, then it's all happening. It is all happening. Okay, we've got a big show. We have got a big show today. My goodness, what is this, Sean? What is this? Unbelievable. Okay, we got a big show. Let's get to it. First of all, we're going to talk a little Duke Blue Devils. This is our spotlight team of today. Darren Mensah, Pete Knackles, article a couple of days ago on the Duke Blue Devil quarterback. He set his family up for financial freedom, Big NIL contract with Duke. Now, you guys know how much I fell in love with Mensah. I loved that Tulane-Kansas State game. That was a brilliant game. A brilliant game last year. A brilliant game. Mensah and Mekhi Hughes, holy smokes. Mekhi Hughes was with Oregon. Darren Mensah goes to Duke. Completed 65.9% of his passes. First year as a full-time starter. Mensah emerged onto the National College Football scene. He closed out the year throwing 2,700 yards, 22 touchdowns, but it's his talent, his skill level, the way he looks down the field when he's getting mad rush. He's got 3 years of eligibility remaining. In mid-December, Mensah entered the portal. Days later, after visiting Duke, he committed to the Blue Devils in a stunning move. Duke also committed to paying him more than $3 million in his first season in Durham, making him one of the highest paid players in college football. I was stunned. Not that so much that Duke got him, but they got him so quickly. It was very tough to leave my home, Mensah told On3. I was at Tulane for 2 years. Super grateful for that place. It made me who I am today. Definitely not easy to leave all my teammates. Those are my guys. But I wanted to play in a competitive conference like the ACC in the Power Four. I knew this move would set up my family for financial freedom. Those are some of the things that went into the decision. I feel like Manny Diaz, when we met in the portal, he's the kind of guy when he talks, you listen. I wanted to play for the head coach like him. Being able to play in the Power Four and set up his family for financial success were 2 key factors in the equation for Mensah to leave Tulane and enter the portal. It's part of the evolving college quarterback equation, especially when weighing the transfer portal and the NFL. Obviously, the NIL component was pretty important, but it wasn't a primary focus, Darren Mensah said. This guy has skills. He's tough. He's intelligent. He's the whole package, Duke. You've got your quarterback, Duke. The primary focus is to play in the NFL. So I feel like Duke is a place where I can achieve that. During the season, I just let my agent, Noah and AD, and I feel like they did a phenomenal job keeping me focused on what I needed to do during the season. I'm where I'm at now, so I'm grateful for them. When Mensah initially entered the portal, he said he received interest from most of the SEC. But once he visited Duke, he felt comfortable and confident that he could develop in Manny Diaz's program. Mensah admitted he didn't initially view Duke as a top destination, but that quickly changed. I spoke to a bunch of programs. My agents did for me, he said. Thinking of Duke as the top name at first, for sure, I'd say was a little bit surprising. But I did my research because it's a pretty big decision. And after doing my research, this was the best opportunity for me to get where I want. Duke watched starting quarterback Malik Murphy. He transferred out after that 9-3 season. With a need at quarterback, the Blue Devils went all in on Mensah. All in on Mensah. Mensah redshirted in 23. The quarterback said Duke's pitch and his relationship with Diaz made the difference in his portal recruitment. They had a clear vision for me. I like that. Coach Manning has a defensive mind and just having that perspective when watching film. We try to watch tape 2 to 3 times a week and having an elite defensive perspective when it comes to knowing defenses is crucial. Offensive coordinator Jonathan Brewer has worked closely with quarterback to bring in the pieces of the offense that Mensah is most comfortable with. Originally from Lakewood, California, 3-star recruit coming out of high school. When he entered the portal and transferred to Duke, definitely felt good, he said, but he's tried not to remain complacent. Mensah has his own house and car in Durham, part of the luxury of his multi-million-dollar deal. But his goals have remained the same: make the college football playoffs and win the Heisman Trophy. And finally, in the article, our defense can be one of the best in the country this year, Mensah said. We're going to wake people up. We're going to wake some people up. They made it pretty easy for me. I just have to go out and put up points. We're going to do that. The playoffs are definitely a feat that I think we can accomplish. I'm trying to be one of the best in the country next year. Trying to be in New York City. Darren Mensah, Duke. Now, the spotlight here is on Duke for today's show. Tomorrow is going to be Michigan State, and the following day it's going to be South Carolina Gamecocks. Jaquez Moore was the running back we talked about early in the monologue. Sounds like he's healthy. In 2022, 2023, he averaged like 5.8 yards a rush, 6.2 yards per rush. So much juice. Now he should be the main guy at Duke, RB1. A lot of optimism when it comes to Mensah and Moore backfield. The offensive line returns 4 returning starters. 4 returning starters, including all ACC Brian Parker. The offensive line is set. The quarterback, holy smokes. The running back, if he's healthy, holy smokes. The wide receiver room is a little weak. I think that is the weakness, the weak unit for Duke, especially on offense. Shamar Hagans, I don't know if you remember him. A couple of years ago, he had a great game against Miami. Number 2, the little guy in the slot, possession receiver. They need more out of him. I mean, he caught 40-some passes last year, I believe. I could be wrong on that. But he is very good receiver. He is the returning receiver that's going to really have to carry the team. He's going to have to be the guy that Mensah looks for on blitzes. He's got to be the hot route guy. He's got to be the slot guy that moves the chains for the Duke Blue Devils. Andre Anthony, transfer receiver, I don't know. If Duke is looking at him for be their number 2 guy, again, Duke's wide receiver room is the weak point of the team. Anthony started at Michigan, went to Oklahoma. This is his 3rd team. Somebody's got to arise, the young guys. I mean, a really young guy, like a true freshman, redshirt freshman. Somebody has got to pop in the wide receiver room at Duke to help Darren Mensah out, to help Jaquez Moore out. Now, the defense, as we said earlier, first in ACC sacks, tied for first. Duke led last year the ACC conference in tackle for losses. It was an all-or-nothing affair for the Duke Blue Devils. Manny Diaz has an attacking defense. And for the most part, it worked. Duke won 9 games last year with their running back being injured, with a quarterback that was so up and down, Malik Murphy. Chandler Rivers is the shutdown cornerback. We talked about him. when we broke down the all ACC team defense. Chandler Rivers, the cornerback, and then you got Terry Moore, all ACC safety. Their secondary is primed and ready to go. I have Duke coming in 6th place in my way too early order of finish prediction for the ACC this year. 6. That's what I did many months ago in a way too early predictions. I am willing, I could see moving Duke up to 5, possibly even 4. North Carolina, they're right in there. Florida State, they're right in there. I think Duke's going to be right in there because the top 3 teams of Clemson, Louisville, and Miami, I think those are the top 3 teams, and then there's somewhat of a gap. But if Duke can, if their wide receiver room surprises me, if they win a couple of upsets, they do play Illinois. I almost forgot to say this. Duke plays at home against the Fighting Illini on September 6th. And Illini, both Duke and Illinois won 9 games last year. Illinois is returning a lot of guys. We are going to have a good barometer of Duke football very early in the season. The second week of the season is going to tell us a lot about Duke football. But they've got a home game at North Carolina State, their first home game. And then they're on the road to Syracuse in California. If you look at their road schedule, it's doable for Duke. It is absolutely doable. They're at UConn, at North Carolina, they're at Clemson. Anyway, so that is your Duke Blue Devil Spotlight for 2025. Tomorrow, we are going to cover the Michigan State Spartans. And then on Thursday, we're going to cover the South Carolina Gamecocks. And on Friday, we're going to cover the Baylor Bears. So, Spotlight team every single day. Okay, now let's get on. Ryan Willie did not like what I said about Minnesota in the Big Ten title game. Ryan Willie is laughing. Ryan Willie is absolutely chuckling. Unbelievable. Thank you for the super chat, Ryan Willie. Appreciate it. Appreciate it so very much. Thank you. Thank you for your generosity, kind sir. Okay. Even though you're laughing at me. Even though you are laughing at me. King Spleen. Greg, would a faction of the Big Ten presidents say no to a sizable revenue increase to the respective universities from Fox and NBC? First of all, the Big Ten is going to get a sizable revenue increase anyways. They are. Why? It's because they're making boogles of money for Fox and NBC, even with the complaints of NBC. Number 2, the Big Ten presidents have to be satisfied. You got to scratch their backs. Oregon and Washington are 2, fantastic universities, great sports, but they needed each other. They did. You've got to be able to, the Big Ten presidents that think differently than you and I have got to go in that room, and when the Big Ten expands, they're going to go to their cocktail parties, they're going to go to their academia conventions and research conventions and and they're going to be talking about their two new universities. There has to be something in there that satisfies them, or they're not going to expand. They're not going to do it. Not going to do it. Okay. We did the Mensah. We did Duke Spotlight. Let's talk about this guy. Vanderbilt quarterback Deigo Pavia. Football Scoop by John Price. We don't go through the whole article. I will provide a link in the description box so you can read the whole thing. Vanderbilt quarterback Deigo Pavia says the SEC team offered him $4 million. Shades the Big Ten. Appeared on the latest podcast episode of Bussin' with the Boys. Vanderbilt quarterback Deigo Pavia made instant headlines for his trash talking of the Big Ten Conference. Verbal daggers, cloak and dagger. Verbal dagger. It went on and on and on and on for the whole 90-minute interview. Pavia also dropped an SEC bombshell when asked how much he heard about getting back into the NCAA transfer portal following his breakout 24 season in which he threw for 2,293 yards, 20 touchdowns, added 800 rushing yards, as well as 8 touchdowns. Yeah, I don't know if I'm supposed to share, but anywhere from $4 to $4.5 million SEC. Deigo Pavia says the market for him was $4 to $4.5 million. Holy smokes. Pavia continued to pile on to the Big Ten Conference when fellow co-host, the Michigan All-American Luan Taylor, asked about that conference. You want to play with the best. You don't want to play with the Big Ten, Pavia said. You ignore those phone calls. You ignore those calls. You know that. The Big Ten, you have Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, Penn State. You really only have 4 games a year. But the SEC, it's like week after week after week, you're going to get beat on. In the Big Ten, you're not going to get beat on by the Purdue's and Nebraskas. That's real, though. Deigo Pavia, the starting quarterback of the Vanderbilt Commodores, just took a shot at the Cornhuskers. Cornhuskers. Nebraska fans. Holy smokes. Deigo Pavia. Reminded of Iowa, Pavia delivered what stands at least this entire decade as the recurring punchline. You got to score 7 points to beat Iowa, said the former junior college and New Mexico State quarterback who earned a 6-year for the upcoming season at Vanderbilt. Pavia's thoughts on the college football playoff and expansion to 16 teams, and this is the contradiction here. Deigo Pavia, I think the SEC and the Big Ten should obviously get the 4 automatic bids, and then they can do whatever they want with the rest. So Pavia's talking about, he's ripping on the Big Ten. It ain't nothing like the SEC. But when asked about the college football playoffs, Pavia, I think the SEC and the Big Ten should get 4 each. And then they can do whatever they want with the rest, he said. Pavia taking shots at the Big 12 and the ACC. Man, this guy talks. Again, I have a lot of respect for the guy. I have a lot of respect how he plays football. he was playing at New Mexico State. He goes to Vanderbilt, and he's talking down to everybody else that's not in the SEC. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. Told Vanderbilt was presently slotted 13 in the 16-team SEC power rankings on ESPN. Deigo Pavia said it's probably by some fat guy who sits on a computer all day, he cracked. Well, I look back at my notes, and I had Vanderbilt as number 13. So, I don't know. Is he taking a shot at me? Is he taking a shot at the fat guy from Minnesota? Earlier in the podcast, Pavia declared Vanderbilt a national title contender and evidenced its residency in the SEC as the key pathway. All right? Look, I said Minnesota going to go to the Big Ten title game as part of my propaganda. Now, I don't have that in my predictions. So I guess I got to let this fly. I got to let this go. I got to let it go. You guys don't have to let it go. I have to let it go. We're both blowing out some propaganda. Pavia declared Vanderbilt a national title contender. You win 10 games in the SEC, you're in the tournament. And then it's anyone's game, Pavia said. Holy smokes. Finally, Pavia delighted in telling the hosts the three conferences of the NFL are the AFC, the NFC, and the SEC, while proclaiming the SEC superiority over the Big Ten. Holy smokes. Deigo Pavia is, he's throwing some hand grenades out there. My goodness. This is Vanderbilt. Before we get to Vanderbilt's football schedule for 2025, I want to rewind the clock and go back to 2024. Vanderbilt had a successful season for them. They went 7-6. Okay? They lost to Georgia State last year. They defeated Alabama 40-35. They only defeated Ball State 24-14. 24-14. Ball State was the worst team, I believe, in the MAC. So, again, I'm going to give credit to Vanderbilt. They defeated Alabama. Let's see here. No, Ball State, they were 2-6 in the MAC. They defeated Kent State, which was the worst team in the MAC, 35-35. 37-35. Ball State defeated the worst MAC team, 37-35. Vanderbilt defeated Ball State by 10. They lost to Georgia State. So, for Deigo Pavia to say that nobody else matters, Vanderbilt's a national contender, boy, that takes a lot of Pavia is just yapping. Miami beat Ball State 70-0. Cranky Tiger, well, Vandy will move up in the ranking for every SEC loss. That's how it works. How did the Big Ten and the SEC match up in the past 10 years? SEC out ahead. My biggest argument on, and I said at the beginning of the show, the SEC, in my opinion, is still the strongest conference in the country, the most valuable conference in the country. But the gap has definitely closed. When Greg Sankey talks about the last 10 years, when people talk about the last 10 years, to me, it's data that is obsolete, completely obsolete. Look at the data of the last 2 years. Look at the data when NIL has come into play. Look at the data when the portal has come into play. And going forward, we're going to have to look at the data when it comes to the rev share, NIL, portal, and these rules that are going to be in place. The last 2 years, the SEC does not have the advantage that Greg Sankey thinks they have. That is why he keeps putting out data for the last 10 years. But those years, that data is obsolete. The world of college football has completely changed. Completely changed. Expansion crush, Mr. Hoosier. They got Fernando Mendoza this year. Do you think Indiana would have gotten Fernando Mendoza 4 years ago? No. Fernando Mendoza's ability to go from one team to another team, he would not. You couldn't even leave a team until you were a graduate. The world has completely changed. But the changes well, sure it has. But it's more revved up than ever, League O Gators. The portal has changed. You remember, you only could be you had to be a grad to be eligible to go in the portal. That's no longer the case. Breeze in Georgia is in the house. Vandy should have been in the playoffs last year. They beat Bama. You know what? I forgot to go through this schedule. My bad. Let me go through the schedule, and then we got to go through the CBS. The battle is brewing today and tomorrow in those meetings. Hold on here. Vanderbilt 2025 schedule. Charleston Southern. At Virginia Tech. At South Carolina. Home against Georgia State. Home against Utah State. At Alabama. Home against LSU. Home against Missouri. At Texas. Home against Auburn. Home against Kentucky. At Tennessee. That is Vanderbilt's schedule for 2025. Now, let's go to the battle that is brewing between the Big Ten and the SEC. The battle is absolutely brewing. John Talty, Brandon Marcello, CBS Sports. The two most powerful conferences in the country may now be on opposing sides as the deadline nears. Yesterday we did a live show. We called it DEFCON 2. We called it DEFCON 2. We said the relationship is blowing up. Whether tweaks to the college football playoff selection process will be enough to stave off a switch to an automatic qualifier heavy model will be at the heart of the discussions this week in Asheville, North Carolina, when 10 conference commissioners and Notre Dame's athletic director meet. Now, we're not going to go through this whole article. There are specific points in this article that I want to talk about before we get to your phone calls. The meetings, which began Tuesday and run into Wednesday afternoon, are expected to center on the strength of schedule component in the selection process. It has become a hot topic in the aftermath of the conference meetings in May. It's a hot topic. It's a hot topic in SEC country. The SEC in particular has been outspoken about the need to revamp a process. It believes it did not properly account for its conference prowess last season when it left out a 9-3 Alabama who lost to Vanderbilt, who lost to Oklahoma 24-6. Ole Miss, who lost at home to Kentucky, and South Carolina from the 12-team field. The battle is brewing between the Big Ten and the SEC. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Since negotiating control over the future of the CFP format and a bigger cut of the money, the Big Ten and the SEC have largely been in lockstep on the major issues. Sankey and Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti developed a strong working relationship, one that Sankey never had with Petitti's predecessor, and brought the two conferences closer together with historic joint meetings in Nashville and New Orleans over the last 8 months. Really? Well, shut it down, Big Ten. Shut down those meetings. Those shared sensibilities include momentum behind the Big Ten's preferred revamping of the playoff to a model that would award 4 out of bids each to the Big Ten and the SEC, 2 to the ACC and the Big 12, 1 to the top of Group 6 team, and to the remainder 2 at-large teams. The SEC PATC money shot number 1. The Southeastern Conference had seemingly rallied around the idea, with Sankey saying last month the conference was interested but not committed. That changed after significant backlash from the conference football coaches, leading multiple SEC sources to predict that the conference would stick with 8 conference games and side with the ACC and the Big 12 preferred 5+11 model. Leading multiple SEC sources predict the conference would stick to 8. You can stick to 8. You can stick to 8 conference games. But we're not doing the 5+11 model with you being at 8. It ain't happening. The SEC appears open to continuing with the selection committee, but one that tweaks the currently used metrics and weighs the strength of schedule more heavily than it has been in the past. So the SEC wants to stay with 8 conference games, wants to go to 5+11, and wants to tweak it even more in their favor. What are we even doing here in Asheville? What are we doing in Asheville? Mississippi State Athletic Director Zach Salmon, the human element is great, but there's got to be more clearly defined metrics. Metrics that favor the SEC. Metrics that say a 9-3 Alabama should go ahead of basically everybody that's 11-1. Even though they lost to Oklahoma, I mean, it's unbelievable. The SEC would have still gotten 6 teams in last year, and it wasn't good enough for them, even in an off year. And finally, the Big Ten, a source. Adding any new data points is not going to necessarily cure what has been a pretty dominant thought process. It's always going to come back to this subjective mindset. The Big Ten leaders, they got the signal from the SEC. The Big Ten is more convinced than ever that more AQs are the only way to fix the problems, not a tweaked SOS, strength of schedule metric, according to Big Ten sources with direct knowledge of the situation. At the heart of the Big Ten's argument, they say, is the belief that more automatic qualifiers and the potential play-in championship weekend would keep more program fan bases invested later into the season, which ultimately leads to a better fan attendance and television ratings. I'm going to go through this a little bit more, and then I'm going to lay it on the line. I'm going to lay it on the line for you. Okay? Hold on. In a model where it's 5-11, there's no amount of data you can pour through to figure out who's better between the fourth place Big Ten team, fourth place SEC team, and a second place Big 12 team, said a Big Ten source. I recognize people think there are solutions. We've studied it a whole lot. There's not a whole lot that you can do to tweak it. And then it talks about how the Big Ten wants, and the Big Ten wants the SEC to go to 9 conference games. Look at the data here, and then I'm gonna stop going through this article. Look at the Big 12 versus the SEC. The games that are going to be played for the 25 season. Total Power 4 games. Big 12 88, SEC 82. Total non-Power 4 games 32-46. The SEC is going to play 33% more non-Power 4 games than the Big 12. Or almost, not 33, 30%, something like that. Okay. Let me say this. Let me say this. Let's just be blunt. Let's be blunt. And then we're going to open up the phone lines and you guys can go blunt back at me. Okay? I'm talking to the Big 12 right now. I'm talking to the Big 12 fan base. Your Mark won't pick up my phone calls. Big 12 fan base, I'm talking to you. If we actually do what the SEC wants to do, where they're going to tweak it more with the strength of schedule, more in favor of them, 5 plus 11, as a Big 12 team, you're not going to get a 9-3 team in the playoffs. You're not going to do it. You're not going to get a 9-3 team in the playoffs. A 10-2 team is the ultimate floor that you could get one in. Okay? But a 10-2 team, a Big 12 10-2 team, is going to probably get eclipsed with a 9-3 SEC team. It was last year. And that was probably going to be the worst 9-3 SEC teams, the worst metric that they're ever going to have going into the selection process. So if you're a Big 12 team and you lose a game early on, and you're going to lose a game early on, you play 9 conference games, You lose a game early on, you lose a non-conference game, and suddenly your pathway to the playoffs are like this. It was demonstrated last year. And if they tweak it even more for the SEC, it's going to be even more. If the SEC remains at 8 conference games, if they're playing so many more non-Power 4 games than you are, Big 12, and they're going to get the benefit of the doubt over you, what are you doing? That is my question to the Big 12. What are you doing? Now, I have problems with the 4-4-2-2-1-3 model. My biggest problem, it's permanent until the next media negotiations, on the next round of media negotiations and everything. But Big 12 having 2 guaranteed bids means that you got a couple of bite at the apples. You got a couple bite of the apples. You can win a big non-conference game against a Big 10 school or an SEC school or an ACC school. You can set yourself up for an at-large bid. But if you can't set yourself up at a large bid, you've got the conference Big 12 race. If the Big 12 has 2 auto bids, they're most likely going to go to 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3. Most likely the Big 12, if you come in 4th place in the conference race, you're going to have a shot to get in the playoffs. Most likely, with 2 to 3 games left to go in the regular season, Big 12, listen, 2 or 3 games left to go. We're talking early November. There could be 8, 9, 10 Big 12 teams that are still mathematically alive to get to that 4th spot, to get to that 3rd spot in the Big 12. Your games are going to matter to the playoff race. In a 5+11, you are already, it's over, Johnny. It's over. You don't have to be the most, I'm trying to figure out an analogy that won't, you don't have to be the most shiny object. You don't have to be the most beautiful woman at the ball. You don't have to be the guy who looks the best in the gym to get into the playoffs when it comes to the auto bids. You just got to beat the guys that are running with you. You just got to slide into a play-in game. And then you got to win. You want to earn it on the field, win a play-in game. Earn it on the field. Force those other SEC teams to win their play-in game. Force a Big 10 team to win their play-in game. And then there's going to be a couple at-large bids ready for those top teams that if they lost in a big upset, they might still slide in. But a 5+11 with the SEC staying at 8 conference game, Big 12 while you're at 9, and they're going to tweak it more in their favor. Big 12, man, I don't know what's going on. Brett Yormark, you got to do one of 2 things. You've only got 2 choices, Yormark. One, if you want to be quiet about it, fine. If you want to be polite about it, fine. But you got to tell Sankey, this is going to really suck for the Big 12. What you're setting up ain't good enough. It ain't even close. So one or 2 things that, Sankey, you got to go to 9 conference games. And Sankey says, well, that's not your decision to make, Brett. And then Brett's going to say, okay, if you don't go to 9, we're going to rip up the script. We're going to flip our position. And we're going to go back to just having 12. Big 12 wants to expand this thing. But Brett Yormark's going to say we're going to stick at 12, or we're going to do that crazy auto bid model, that Silent Pete who's over there in the corner. I shouldn't say that. Silent Pete is not going to be at the meetings because he just had surgery, so he's going to be by Zoom call. But Silent Pete, who's on our screen right now, and his microphone is on mute for some reason, I'm going to have to agree with that crazy dude. Yormark has got to step up here. He's got to step up. Okay. All right. Let's go to your phone calls. Tell me how wrong I am. Tell me how wrong I am about the optimism around the Duke Blue Devil football team this year. Tell me how wrong I got it. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. Again, if you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. If you want to make sure I get to your comment, you hit that $, you make a super chat comment. You help us keep our lights on for another day. I will get to your comment as soon as I possibly can. You can go to the description box below the video. There is a link. If you want to hit that link to become a Cloak and Dagger member, please go do it. And we got our first call.
From
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas. BYU Cougar. The floor is yours. Thanks for calling, sir.
Well, Greg, just never pick my team. That's all I ask. Never pick my team.
I might.
You broke.
I might.
You broke Bob and PSU Netwit's hearts. You broke their hearts today, Greg.
Look. You need to be careful here, because I really only got one team with a pin in the Big 12 championship game. Remember, my official predictions come out in August. I got Arizona State in there with Jordan Tyson coming back healthy, Levitt, that whole thing. I got Arizona State, but I'm looking at the Baylor Bears. I'm looking at Kansas State. I'm looking at BYU. I could still, we got to wait for the Ratzlaff thing, if anything's going to happen with that. But no, I haven't shut the door on BYU, so you can't say that I haven't picked you.
You need to shut the door on it.
I'm not shutting the door on nothing, baby. Did you hear my propaganda about the Gophers earlier on the show?
Yes, I did.
You don't know what's going to come out of my fat mouth. So go ahead, sir.
By the way, if the Gophers do make it to Indianapolis, Greg, the Big Ten needs to get you your own booth at Lucas Oil Stadium for a PATC show. We need to have a Greg the Cooler show at the Big Ten championship games. That happens. Like, to any of the Big Ten people listening right now, if you're in power, if the Gophers make it to the Big Ten championship game, Greg needs to have his own booth to host the show, to host a PATC show.
I have been fortunate enough by very kind-hearted people at the University of Minnesota. If I wanted, I could get media passes for the football games. However, no, but I do the live. I'm not going to do it because I do watch parties on Saturday. I can't. I got to do watch parties with you guys. But unfortunately, and I mean this with all honesty, there is no way on God's green earth that the Big Ten would ever approve Big Ten media pass to me at all. There's no chance. You guys, I try to explain this. I can't. I I can't say everything, but I am a person non grata over there in Rosemont, Illinois. Go ahead, sir.
Oh yeah, I know. And the story, I mean, you told the story before, and maybe they're mad at you because maybe they're blaming you for cooling the 4-2-2, the 4-4-2-2. Maybe they're blaming you for cooling that, Greg.
Well, I didn't like it, but I don't hate it as much as I used to. You know what I'm saying? So I'm hoping your mark can actually kind of bend a little bit like I've bent a little bit.
Well, I don't know. So I come at this from the perspective that I'm a minority here amongst Big 12 fans because I actually agree with you on your position of 4-4-2-2 with a look-in provision. I actually agree with you on that 100%. Because I will tell you, after last year, the disrespect the conference got in the polls and everything altogether, the less decision power the committee has, the better, in my opinion. And, I don't know. I mean, the only thing that I can think of why your mark and the Big 12 would support a 5+11 is if they were either being threatened by ESPN to go along or face the consequences, or if they were getting something in return, like a scheduling agreement or something. That's the only thing I can think of, Greg, because they know the numbers. They're not dumb. I mean, they know the numbers, and they know the situation with the committee. So the only thing I can logically think of why they would have this position, and I could be wrong, I mean, but the only reason why I think they would have this position is if they had been given something in exchange. Now, with that said, I would never trust Greg Sankey to honor his deal on anything because he's the most dishonest person in sports and the most dishonest people in the country. But, with that said, I mean, dealing with Greg Sankey is essentially like, agreeing to pack a rattlesnake in your backpack down the mountain. So, I mean, that's not what you do. So, I mean, I hope that they realize that they're dealing with the devil there. But I agree with you on that, and maybe I'm wrong, Greg. But I just think that there has to be something that's going on behind the scenes, some sort of deal that's being worked on. Because I have to think that they know exactly what you just shared, Greg. I have to. They know those numbers. They know the situation. Yeah. They know that the committee hates them. They know the committee's not going to do them any favors. I don't think they're blind to that. So it's either ESPN's threatening them with their existence or has promised something to help improve the value of their television product to better position them in the future for another TV deal. I mean, there's probably a secret deal in the background there. I guess time remains to tell, but that's what I think of. But absent of that, in that instance, if they're getting like SEC games or something like that, then maybe that helps them with their strength of schedule metric. But other than that, that's the only explanation I can come up with, Greg. Hopefully, my viewpoint is the less committee, the better. I just don't want them involved with this. And I mean, I know people don't like the auto bid concept. I know they don't like it. I would preferably, I would be fine with a 14-team playoff with 4-4-2-2 and only one at large, because I just don't trust the auto. I just don't trust the committee to ever get anything right, because at the end of the day, nobody's ever happy with what they do. But ESPN likes the controversy, and I think my last point before I jump off is, anything that's being sabotaged here is all being sabotaged by ESPN, because ESPN has a total monopoly right now on college football, and they're going to do everything they can to preserve that. And I just think that that's how they're operating. And that's all I have. But have a great day, Greg.
You got it.
And good luck to the Gophers this year, my friends.
Appreciate it. Bye. Appreciate it, my man. Great call. Brett Bielema just spoke out. Brett Bielema, according to Adam Rittenberg, Brett Bielema Hold on.
Call from
Evil Badger.
Evil Badger, Ryan Willie. Can you hold on for just one moment?
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Brett Bielema says, I don't think there's any way we can do a 16-team playoff if they're not at 9. In other words, the SEC. He just said that. And I mean, there's just the math. It would, oh boy. There's just no way the Big Ten can do this. I talked about it yesterday in the live show. We've heard enough from Big Ten people. I get it. A lot of you don't believe, you don't agree with the Big Ten. That's cool. That's fine. I don't necessarily agree with the 4-4-2-2-1-3. I would get fully on board if they could have a mechanism that, if the Big 12 punches above its weight, or the ACC or the G6, they should be able to adjust the out of bids and knock one off the Big 10 or the S. Do some adjustments based upon the performance. That's all. I don't want it to be so permanent. That's the biggest problem I have. But anyways, but going 5+11 with the SEC staying at 8, it ain't going to happen, guys. The Big Ten ain't. They've looked at the models. They've looked at the data. And every model out shows the same. The SEC is going to drink all your milkshakes. It's just the way it is. And I keep going back to this. Ryan Willie, just give me another moment. I keep going back to something. Coos Corner is in the house. Coos Corner, lost Coos Corner's comment. He's also come around to 4-4-2-2-1-3. I completely understand why Yormark cannot say it in the open. I get all that. I also it should not be permanent. If the Big 12 punches above its weight class, if it definitely is performing higher than 2 out of bids in a 3-year period, they should get a 3rd out of bid. There got to be some mechanism on that. How many playoff games you win. But as a fan, I completely understand the out of bids. More than when I did when it all first started. If you are West Virginia Mountaineers and you lost to Penn State by 4 points, or if you lost to Pittsburgh this year by 1 point, and then you lose a close Big 12 game, but then you rattle off 3 wins in the Big 12 and you're sitting there at 5-2 and you're 3-1 in the Big 12, guess what? You've got a shot to get to the college football playoffs. You do. You got to get to that 4th spot or that 3rd spot or the 2nd spot or that 1st spot, but you got a shot. But in this world of the 5+11, where they're doing the strength, your door is basically already closed unless you rattle off all the other wins. But for West Virginia, and I'm just using West Virginia as an example. You can use Minnesota or anybody. With the out of bids, you at least know the pathway. You see the light. You can talk. Coos Corner, which is an unbelievable YouTube channel, West Virginia Mountaineer YouTube channel. Coos Corner, if West Virginia is in the thick of things in the middle of October, I can imagine Coos Corner saying, we're mathematically alive. We want that team to lose because we're going to win. And by the way, we got a tiebreaker over Baylor. We beat them early in the year, so we want Baylor to beat this. We got a pathway. See, guys, we can get to that 4th spot. That third, you see the pathway. But with this 5+11, the committee and the SEC gaming the system, in my opinion, tweaking the strength of schedule, I don't want to say it. As a fan, as a college football fan, for the majority of the college football fan bases, it's going to be more enjoyable. I get it, though, in the back of the mind of the Big 12 fan base, ACC fan base, you are saying we are treated like second-class citizens here because we're only getting 2 auto bids. Instead of getting to the top 6 of our conference, we got to get to the top 4. That's not fair. But then again, but I go back to the point where maybe it can be changed if the ACC and the SEC's got to go to 9. They got to go to 9 conference games if this 5+11 has a chance of happening. No way the Big Ten's going to go for that. No way are they going to. There's just no way. There is so much heat out there. Brett Bielema just said today, just now, what every Big Ten person is thinking. We're not going to 16. We're not going to 14. We're not changing nothing unless the SEC goes to 9 conference games or go to auto bids. Ryan Willie, the floor is yours. Thanks for your patience.
Thanks for taking my call, Greg. The reason why I threw a couple hand grenades in the chat earlier was I was really upset with all the people bashing the Big Ten yesterday.
Yeah.
And
yeah, there was some Big Ten bashing going on yesterday. That's fine. That's fine. But go ahead, sir. You can bash back. Go ahead.
I think Sankey is actually afraid to go into the 4-4-2-2-1-3 because he knows that the Big Ten over the last couple of years has owned the SEC. And the more teams that he can get into the TFP, and he stated in the past that his goal is to get as many SEC teams in the CFP. Everyone else there won. He wants the rest of it to be SEC. Just look at the basketball tournament, where they got 14 or 16 teams in.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's going to really not happen? You think that the Big 12 and ACC is going to have a chance to get more teams in just because it's a 5+11? No, I don't think so. Just means more SEC teams have a chance to get in. That's why the Big Ten has to push for the 4-4-2-2-1-3 and be. And I agree with Mullen. Just walk away and have a plan to blow up the college football as we know it. It was an expansion.
I think that would be. I think that would be one of those things that would be on the table. I think that would be. I think definitely that would be an option. I think that's why we're at DEF CON 2. I think the Big Ten is really might be at a different place right now than they were just 3 months ago. Because 3 months ago they thought there was going to be this new world order, but the SEC did not. They just completely switched up. And so now, I mean, if I was a Florida State fan, if I was a Clemson fan, if I was an ACC fan of a school that maybe thought that the Big Ten wasn't going to be, the doors weren't going to be open to us, I'd be looking at this and saying, boy, I kind of like the fact that the Big Ten is pissed off at the SEC because this might be the miracle shot we needed. Because the Big Ten, there's options out there for them. Now, I don't want to I'm going to let you get back the floor, Ryan. But since we're talking about this, there was somebody said Esmetox says the only thing the Big 12 has up its sleeves is prayers. They can't even agree on private equity for more money. I want to take a moment here and just I think people have got to be careful about, how do I say this? I don't necessarily think the Big 12, I'm going to use it as a statement that covers all these conferences. I think people have got to be careful about concluding that conferences are not going to do a private capital deal with a private equity firm or a private equity deal with a private equity firm just because they hit the pause button now or they say no now. I'm putting that, guys, this stuff is coming in. This stuff, the money is coming in. We don't know what type of deals, but I think we could get a story very shortly that the Big Ten might hit the pause button or might say go. But a no or the pause button isn't necessarily a no for a long period of time. Just putting that out there. Go ahead, Ryan Willie.
Well, okay, so, and the Big 12 and ACC fans are not going to like what happens if the Big 10 just decides to blow up the whole system and expand, because the ACC and Big 12 will no longer exist the way it does now. I believe in Mullen's model of the 32 team Big 12 or Big 10, but and then he thinks that the SEC will only go up to 24. I think they might just try to match the Big 10 and go to 32, which would kill the Big 12 and the ACC as we know it.
Yeah, I'm not quite on the same page as the Buckeye Mullen on all that. But I don't quite agree with the numbers, but I don't quite believe in that big of an expansion.
It's just a hypothetical.
Yeah, it's a hypothetical. Yep, a lot of speculation. But I do think that the Big Ten and the SEC are going to eventually, and the Big 12, eventually going to be making some conference-wide deals with these big old firms, and there's going to be a lot involved in it. So I don't think a pause or a no now means a no later on. That's all I wanted to say on that.
Well, that's all I have.
All right, buddy.
For you. All right. Thanks for taking my call.
You got it,
right,
Evil
bye.
Badger. Beautiful. Yep. Yeah, he is speculating. Mowing Mr. Buckeye. AMAC, don't understand why you P2 people are so concerned about the Big 12. It's disingenuous. You don't care what happens with the Big 12 and have no respect for them. Woo! Wow. I love Big 12 football. I am concerned with the Big 12. I have to disagree with you respectfully, AMAC. I watch Big 12 football I love Big 12 football. I love the institutions of the Big 12. I applauded the Brett Yormark moves. I've given Yormark his flowers. I might give him his flowers after this. Big 12 football is a lot of fun. So maybe I don't read the same things as y'all, but why is Sankey evil? As far as I can tell, he's just doing his job. I don't think Sankey's evil, although some people think he's maybe heading that way. I don't think he's evil. He's looking out for SEC interest, but the Big Ten has to say no. That's all I'm saying. The Big Ten definitely has to say no with what the SEC wants to do here. Bobby Hansen, I don't see any conference going past 24. Jose, USC played 9 conference games, plus opened up with LSU and closed with Notre Dame. Holy smokes, only one G5 opponent. That's how you do it. That's more at the chat than at you, Greg. I understand, Lee Go Gators. I get it. But you remember now, if you look at the chat room yesterday, the Big Ten was getting hammered. Hammered. That's true, Stormy Cyclone. Moen is going to get a big dose of reality come October 4th at the Shoe. Moen is going to get a big dose of reality. Okay, let me see if there's any. There's a lot of, let me make sure that nothing else came out. Brett Bielema came out and said, nah, we're not doing the 16 team playoff. Here it is. Here it is. Nicole Arbach. Brett Bielema speaking to a small group of reporters here in Chicago about a potential 16-team playoff. Let me show you. I'm telling you guys, I said it yesterday, DEFCON 2, the Big Ten, I don't think there's any way we could do a 16-team playoff if the SEC's not at 9 conference games. We voted unanimously as Big Ten coaches to stay at 9 and actually maybe have an SEC advantage challenge. I was told that they voted unanimously to stay at 8 and not play the Big Ten. But then some people pop off and say what they want to say because they want to look a certain way. Brett Bielema, I mean, he's putting it out there. Look, he goes, we wanted to stay at 9 and play the SEC in a challenge. The SEC don't even want to go to 9. They don't even want to go to 9. So it's two different universes, man. It is so what happens is you can't expand the playoffs with more at-large bids because it only mathematically favors the SEC. A little bit over the Big Ten, a lot more over the Big 12 and the ACC. You cannot do it. Shut it down. Shut it down. Big Ten. Now, it should not be just Brett Bielema talking. It should not be just Ryan Day talking. It should be Silent Tony talking.
from?
Jacob Cat.
Jacobra Cat is on the line. Thanks for calling, sir. I appreciate it. The floor is yours.
Oh, excellent. Hey, first time calling in. Love your show, Greg.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so I just have a really quick question. Would it benefit the SEC or the Big Ten just to let the college football playoff contract expire with the ESPN, and then maybe this agreement is a dog and pony show just so they don't get blamed for letting it expire? That's my only question. Love your show, and I'll get off.
Okay, appreciate it. Hopefully I understand the question. The college football playoff contract goes until 2030, I think, or 2031. Regardless of this fight that is going on, this battle that is brewing, it's going to go on. The playoffs are going to. ESPN has the contract for 5 to 6 more years. I think what the Big Ten has to do, though, is let's just keep it the way it is. Keep it the way it is. We can't go to 16 and have 11 at large when you're staying at 8 conference games. It can't happen. It ain't going to happen. It's the Big Ten is completely. It ain't going to happen. So the playoffs are not going to end, like the contract's not going to end after this year, even though 2025 is the only year where we have a playoff format agreement. 2026 could look exactly like how 2025 looks like. 2027 could look exactly like how 2026 looks like. This could be the format until we go to 2000, at the end of the ESPN contract of 2030. And again, it's like, yeah, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. BY football, I don't know. You gotta listen to the show. I don't know why the Big Ten isn't supporting the 5+11 model. What do they have to lose? I've only spent, 1,000 hours on this. Mathematically, all the simulations show the same thing. The SEC has a huge advantage on a 5+11 model if they stay at 8 conference games. It's a lot less conference losses, having a G5 game late in the season, trying to tweak the metrics to favor them even more. My question to you is, why would the Big Ten support a 5+11 model? If SEC stayed, it would be. They would be liable for incompetence. Why would the Big Ten go to 8 games? Why? And this is what was said to me maybe 10 different times on Twitter today. Why don't everybody go to 8 conference games? So basically, what people want is a race to the bottom, a race to avoid losses. A 5+11 with everybody at 8 conference games. Nobody's going to be playing each other in non-conference games. I mean, Big Ten says no to that. Big Ten says no. Or if the FCS opponents. Yeah, you're correct, AMAC. Math is overrated. Well, I'm not saying I can even do it, Don. You know that I'm not the brightest bulb in the refrigerator. But every simulation, they all know it. The SEC knows it. That's why they're pushing for this. The Big Ten knows it. That's why they're, this ain't going to work. Go read Bill Conley's article on it of a couple weeks ago. 5 plus 11 at 8 conference games, the SEC would be laughing at all of you. All of you. Big BYU football in the chat room, they would be laughing at BYU because they just took your milkshake. They drank it all up. Okay, I think we're going to shut it down. We had a fun show once again today. I do appreciate, I appreciate the donations. Ryan Willie, Heartbreak 25, Preston from Greensboro. Thank you guys so much for your support, helping us keep the lights on here. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate all the great comments in the comments section. Fantastic. Once again, like always, great phone call, Ryan Willie. I appreciate all you guys. If you're new to the channel, please hit subscribe and turn on those notifications. I would appreciate it if you turn on those notifications as we come on live. You know that we're on live. We don't schedule our live shows. I don't say we're going to come on here at 5 o'clock Eastern every single day. I tell you, we come on here when we come on in here, and you got to have your head on a swivel. So you got to subscribe and you got to turn on your notifications. It also helps a little bit if you follow us at Flug Empire. But I want to thank you all for joining us today. Keep your head on a swivel. We might have to come on later tonight if there's breaking news. So keep your head on a swivel. Tomorrow our spotlight team tomorrow is going to be the Michigan State Spartans. Today it was the Duke Blue Devils. On Thursday it's going to be the South Carolina Gamecocks as we get closer and closer to August 23rd, Dublin, Ireland, Farmageddon, Iowa State, Kansas State. It's June 17th. College football is right around the corner at college football's peak around the corner. Until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.